Oh, we're feeling good. Loads of juice there from our PR panel. And remember, we're here having conversations that matter. And one of the key conversations that truly matters, yes, it's definitely about wealth. Definitely, it's about our businesses, but also about our health. And it would be remiss of us if we weren't having a broad spectrum conversation to not include conversations about health. What we're not having conversations about is body shaming. We're not having conversations about dieting, and we're not having conversations about body shaming. Does that make sense? But it is important to consider what we need to do in order to keep our bodies healthy physically and mentally. And one of the most wonderful people that I know that helps people do just that is our next guest. So please, I would love to welcome to the stage the most glorious person. It's Claire Jones.
Wow, I just need to take a breath because coming on late in the day, it's been a moment of huge anticipation. Watching all the other speakers has been very inspirational. But the nerves are definitely kicking in now. Thank you. Okay, so I Am What I Am. Absolutely love that song. I don't know if many of you remember it. 1986, Gloria Gaynor. Used to sing along to it in my bedroom, age 13. One of my favourite songs, but the reason why I've chosen to walk onto it today is because that particular verse has a really important message, and that is that we only have one life, yeah? There are no deposits, there are no returns, and we deal our own deck. Sometimes we deal the aces, sometimes we'll deal the juices. So we're going to mess it up a little bit every now and then, and we are also responsible for every decision that we make. So it was that realisation for me that I only had one life and I wasn't particularly living it in a way that was compatible with my desire to live a long and healthy life. And I realised I needed to make some changes. And I also realised that I was the only one that could do it. And it was releasing my stored energy that had been weighing me down and stopping me from living the life that I wanted to lead. I was in pain, I was unhappy, I had no confidence, and I decided it was time for a change. So I'm sure you've probably realised now that I am going to be talking about weight, but I'm going to be talking about it in a way that I hope is going to feel much more compassionate and much more kind and sensitive than any way you may have been thinking about it before. So with that in mind, are you ready to energize your life? Yeah. Excellent. Excellent, because I'm here to help you to unlock your energy to make the most of your life. So what is the problem that we're facing with energy today? Well, the bottom line, the hard truth, whether we maybe realise it or not, most of us are consuming more energy than we realise, and more energy than is actually healthy for us most of the time. And unfortunately, it's harming our health. And it's not just harming our health, it's harming our future generations. Now, 2/3 of the adult population in the UK are shown to be overweight, and that problem is getting worse. It's not getting better. And some predictions are saying that for the first time in history, our children are going to be leading shorter lives than their parents. And that's really a massive concern. But why is this such a problem? What is it that's going on? I think it's really important that we consider, that this is a society problem. It's not a problem that just a few individuals are dealing with. This is happening all around us. And I'm very well placed to have this very, very important conversation because for 25 years, I really struggled with my weight. From age 13 up until my late 30s, I was constantly either on a diet or I was gaining weight, I didn't know how to manage my weight, I didn't know how to eat normally, whatever that means. And then eventually I was able to break out of it because I realised that by unlocking my stored energy, I was able to lead a life that I felt much happier with, and I was able to do all the things that I wanted to do. And also professionally, for 25 years, I worked as a senior manager in the NHS. I also started my career as a prison officer, and I also worked as a drug and alcohol worker. And during those times, I saw firsthand what happens when people don't look after their health and well-being. And some of the problems that people experience actually limits and shortens their lives. And so many of those things are preventable. And it's something I feel very, very passionate about, not just for myself, but for my family, for my friends, and for the world at large, because I'm really concerned about if we don't have these serious conversations about this problem, it is only going to get worse, and I'm very worried about the future for us as a human race. So why is this such a problem? So first of all, I should say, I do feel a little bit like the devil in disguise. But I just want to reassure you, I'm not the devil, because the conversation that I'm going to be having with you today, I'm really hoping is going to help you to feel better about this subject, because even if it doesn't affect you, it probably affects people around you and may well affect you in the future. And by learning how to understand how to make the most of our energy, we can actually solve the problem for ourselves. So why is this such a problem? Well, it's complicated. There is not an easy answer to this question, but there are a number of factors that we are constantly dealing with all of the time. It's the interplay between the internal factors of our biology, as well as the external factors of the environment that we live in and the influences that are around us all of the time. So I first of all want to just say, if you are worried or struggling with not overeating, if you're worried about the amount of energy that you're consuming, you're actually just being a normal human being. Yeah? We are designed to overeat when food is available, so that we store the excess energy so that we can use it during times when food is not available. But the problem with the world we find ourselves living in now is that food is never not available for us. It's around us all of the time, and we're manipulated and influenced constantly by society, by the food manufacturers and retailers, and just, the fact that we enjoy food. And why wouldn't we enjoy food? Because if we didn't enjoy food, we wouldn't want to eat it. And if we didn't want to eat it, we wouldn't survive. So we've got all of that context that we're trying to struggle against. And of course, then we think, I need to do something about it. I'm not happy with my weight, so we go on a diet. But of course, as soon as we do that, we put ourselves into direct conflict with our survival instincts, which are encouraging us to eat more when food is not available, because we get hungry, so we want to seek out more food. So we might be able to construct a carefully sort of managed mindset for a short period of time, and be really determined, lose a few pounds, and then, obviously, something might happen. We might go through some stressful periods, or we might think, do you know what, I don't want to miss out on all of that food at that party or whatever, I'm just going to have a day off. And then one day off leads to another, and then before we know it, we're self-sabotaging, and we're back where we started, and we feel like we're stuck in Groundhog Day, repeating the same cycles over and over and over again, because our bodies do not want us to lose weight. We are not designed to lose weight voluntarily. It's only supposed to happen when food isn't available. But food is never not available. Just take a look around you, what we're up against all of the time. So this is a picture of a typical high street, and most of those buildings in that picture, I don't know if you can see it very well, are food and drink related. So walk down any high street now. We're living in a service economy where many of the products and services around us are food related. Food takes up far more of a role in our lives than is actually healthy for us now. And if we eat food that we don't need consistently, it is actually harming our health. So we have a celebration of some kind. Maybe it's a birthday, maybe it's an anniversary, maybe it's just someone's leaving do at work. And out come all of the cakes and the biscuits and the sausage rolls and what have you. And of course we want to enjoy it. Why wouldn't we want to enjoy all of that? And then we might be having some friends around watching a film, or we might go to the cinema, or we might just want to have a social gathering. And of course out come the crisps and the beer and the wine and the snacks and all of that. And then, of course, maybe we've had a really tough week and we're really tired and we can't be bothered to cook, or the kids are shouting, oh, can we have a takeaway? So what do? We get on the app and within 20 minutes we can have whatever we want, whenever we want it. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be able to enjoy all of those things. I'm the last person to say you shouldn't eat cakes and biscuits and chocolate, because I love those things myself. But the problem is that if we are consuming these things consistently more than we need, we are going to continue to store more energy. And that is basically what's going on. And this is why, at a population level, the problem is getting worse and worse as time goes on. So what can we do about it? Well, first of all, I'd like to share with you my QR code, which basically will help you with some simple tips that if you want to implement, you can start using straight away, which will really help you to just raise your awareness around what's going on with how much energy you may be consuming. But I think the important thing to remember is that this is very much about changing our attitudes and recognizing that we can't change the world around us. This is where we find ourselves. We're not designed for this world that we're living in, but we can change how we respond to it. Just like Lou was saying this morning, about cleaning up our dirty minds, and she was talking about the fact that we need to raise our awareness around what we're doing. And that is very much what this is all about, really, because if you think about our desire for food, it comes from the primitive part of our brain. We are not designed to be thinking, oh, I wonder how many calories is in that, or I wonder what I ate yesterday. When food is available, we want to eat it, and why wouldn't we? Yeah? So that's what I want you to just sort of bear in mind. Now, with my QR code, I would like to just mention as well that as well as getting your simple tips to basically learn how to manage your energy consumption without worrying about having to go on a diet, I would also like to offer, I am doing a Zoom session on Wednesday the 3rd of April, I think it is, at 7 p.m, where I'm going to be helping you to implement some of the things that I'm going to be talking about today. So if you follow that link, you'll be able to take you to the registration page. Obviously, you might want to take a screenshot of the QR code to save for later. And the other thing is, if you want to take a selfie with me anytime while I'm here, the rest of the day or tomorrow, and tag me in it at Your One Life UK on Instagram, then I will then be in touch with you about how you can arrange a 20-minute free one-to-one weight loss strategy session, or weight management strategy session, if weight management rather than loss is your goal. It really doesn't matter. It's just about helping you to understand your energy requirements so that you can make better decisions as you go about your day and as you manage, negotiate all the challenges that we're constantly faced with in relation to food and drink. You can also take a picture of me on the stage and tag me in that as well, if you like. It's entirely up to you. So, on to what can we do about this? Well, I want you to remember that it's a learning process, okay? Because the problem with going on a diet is that we just eat differently for a short period of time, but nothing really changes underneath. It's like sticking a sticking plaster over the problem. And when you take the sticking plaster off, the problem is still there because we haven't addressed the fundamentals. Now, you may be wondering why I have a motorbike helmet and some L plates and Wonder Woman sitting on her Fireblade motorbike here, because I want to take you on a little bit of a journey with me around what I've just been doing for the last 9 months. So last year, in April, I turned 50. And then for some bizarre reason, I suddenly decided I wanted to learn how to ride a motorbike. Some of you know this. And I was told, oh, it's easy. You just got to turn up. You just got to turn up, do your day's training, and then you'll be legally allowed to ride on the road. You'll be able to practice on your bike. Bearing in mind, I'd already bought my 125cc Honda 125, what's it called, a CB125F, lovely little red thing. So I'd bought my bike, so I turn up for my training, and there I am with the scooter behind me. I'm like, scooter? Why are you putting me on a scooter? I bought a geared bike. We need to make sure that you can balance properly before we put you on the geared bike. I'm like, well, shouldn't be a problem, I can ride a bike. Well, I got on that scooter, the one that's behind me in the picture there, and he said, right, just ride in a straight line from here to those cones. Now, I couldn't even pick my foot off the floor. I didn't have enough confidence in my balance to be able to actually ride in a straight line. So that was a real rude awakening for me. And then I managed to do that by the end of the session. I actually managed to get in a straight line. But then he said, right, we're going to go around the corners now. As soon as I tried that, I fell off. 3 times I fell off in that session. I was absolutely humiliated, bearing in mind so many people had been saying to me, oh, it'll be easy, you'll be fine, it'll be no problem at all. But I realised that there was no way that I was ready for this one-day CBT training that I needed to do. So I booked some lessons. And on the safety of the training ground, I learned how to do figure of 8, I learned how to do slalom through the cones, I learned how to do the U-turns. That was a real bugger, I tell you, trying to do that. I had to practice over and over again because I couldn't get the confidence to lift my foot off the floor or to not put it down on the floor every time I went round the bend. But eventually, I figured it out. And then I was ready for my road ride, which is the final part of the CBT, so you're actually safe to actually practice on your own. But the problem for me was that I'd done all of that on a scooter, so I didn't know how to ride a geared bike. I still didn't know. So I had to take more lessons. So there is me on the geared bike now. And luckily, it was very similar to the one that I'd already bought for myself. So, but they have crash bars on, so if you knock it over, it doesn't get damaged, because obviously learners are likely to knock it over, because we're learning. You know, it's important to be able to learn from our mistakes. So eventually, instead of after one day, it took me 4 months to finally ride my own CB125F. And now I think I've done about 250 miles on it, and I'm training to do my full license, so I can ride a bike a little bit more like this one, as opposed to my little 125. But I'm going to get there. There is absolutely no doubt I'm going to get there. But why am I telling you about this? What has it got to do with how we manage our energy? Well, it's a learning process. So no matter what we're doing, whether we are learning to ride a motorbike, whether we are learning a new skill, whether we're playing a computer game, whether we're learning a new sport, whether we're training for a new career, we have to go through a learning process. And yet when we think about how we manage our weight and our food intake, our energy, all of that goes out the window. And we think we should be able to just suddenly be able to manage those really strong survival instincts that are sitting underneath the surface. And that's the bit that we miss when it comes to trying to manage ourselves, trying to manage our weight, trying to manage in this really, really food-obsessed world that we find ourselves in. So what we need to be able to do is find a way of addressing the fundamentals before we go on to, okay, so how do we make sure we're consuming less energy in order to be able to use up that stored energy that we have. So when we first start, we're in this process of, or this stage of unconscious incompetence. So this is the model of conscious competence that you can see on the screen. I'm sure probably a lot of you are familiar with it in this room. So to begin with, you know, going back to my motorbike analogy, I didn't know that I couldn't balance. So I had to work on my balance, and I had to learn how to actually operate the bike before I could actually do anything with it. But then once I became conscious that I couldn't do it, I then had to practice over and over and over again. And the amount of mistakes I made, I mean, obviously I fell off 3 times on that first lesson. I fell off a few more times after that, I can tell you as well. Luckily on the safety of the training ground, but not on the road, thankfully. Not yet, and I hope it's not going to happen. Then we move to the stage where we know what we're doing, but we have to think about it all of the time. It's got to be on our minds. We've got to be focused on it, because if we're not focused on it, we're not practicing, we're not going to learn. We have to allow ourselves to learn from the mistakes. But of course, when we're trying to follow a diet, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to learn from those mistakes. We have a day off, or it all goes a bit pear-shaped, we self-sabotage, and we find ourselves going, oh, well, that's it, I can't do it, there's something wrong with me, and then we just go back to our old habits, and we end up back where we started. But it really doesn't have to be like that. If we think about this as simply we're just learning how to eat differently in the world we find ourselves in that is harming our health, and if we want to have long, happy, healthy lives, we've got to find a way of addressing this in a way that is compassionate and kind towards ourselves. Just like if you may be teaching your child to ride a bike and they fall off, you say, don't worry, just get back on and keep going. It's the same principle. Now, while we're on the subject of learning, I'm going to take you back to your physics lessons at school, where you may have come across this, which is the law of the conservation of energy. And it basically states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. So what does that mean for us? Well, the energy that we store on our bodies is simply stored from the food that we ate that we didn't need to eat, we didn't need to use at the time. So our bodies, because we've got this wonderful ability to store excess energy, it's a wonderful part of our survival. But the trouble is, we're never in a position where we can start using up that stored energy unless we deliberately make the decision to. And of course, as soon as we do, we put ourselves into conflict with our survival instincts. So, seems like there's no hope, doesn't it? Seems like, how on earth can we actually get out of this problem? Well, I'm living proof that you can, because 13 years ago, I managed to overcome the problem myself, and now I help others to do the same. And there's a very, very useful analogy that I talk about a lot with my clients, and that is about thinking about it in the same way as we might manage our money. So, I'm going to tell you about how you can make the most of your energy budget. So, I'm assuming that most of the people in this room are business owners, running your own businesses. You're going to be looking at your business finances. You're going to be looking at how much money have you got in your bank account. You might be doing that personally as well. And you'll also be looking at how much do things cost, so that you can make sure that you're getting best value and you can afford the things that you're investing in. Now, in the same way as we have a financial budget, we also have our own individual amount of energy we can consume before we start to put on weight. Because the weight is simply the weight of the stored energy that we're holding on our bodies that we don't need to use at the time. So just like we wouldn't say to somebody who's struggling with their money, it's all right, don't look at your bank balance, don't look at the prices, just bury your head in sand and hopefully the problem will go away. Only it doesn't go away, does it? It can get into a bit of trouble if we don't manage our money effectively and we can't do the things that we want to do. So same way, we need to kind of think about how do we know how much energy we need as an individual, and it's different for everybody. And so obviously knowing our numbers in business is really important, and I encourage my clients when we work together to actually think about knowing their numbers in relation to how much they weigh, how much energy they're consuming. But the problem with that is that because of the culture that we experience now is that there's so many people when they come to me, they've got quite a damaged relationship with the numbers and they don't want to go there. So completely understand that. Some people do actually find that it actually is incredibly helpful because it enables them to make better decisions, just like, you know, being able to get best value from the things we spend money on. We get best value from the food or the energy that we're consuming, both from food and drink. So if we're not ready to go there with the numbers, there's a little concept that I'd like to share with you that I think is incredibly helpful, and my clients love this, and I call it the law of diminishing taste. Now, I want you to think about, if you've ever seen the film Matilda, you may remember there's a character called Bruce Bogtrotter, and he's presented with the chocolate cake. He doesn't want to eat it because obviously he's in trouble, but he starts eating and it's, oh, this is really nice. So he finishes the piece of cake, and then he gets presented with more cake. And you can see what he's going through, can't you? It starts to become really unpleasant. And that's what happens to us when we go out for a big meal or, you know, we eat more than we need. The beginning, it's super, super nice, really tasty. And then we reach that point where, you know, it's not quite as nice as it was. And then we keep going because the food is there on our plate. But because we've got those messages from our childhood of, you've got to finish everything on your plate, we keep going. We can't possibly waste it. And then we end up feeling really uncomfortable. And for me, I used to get terrible trouble trying to sleep if I'd overeaten. And I was terrible gastric problems and all of that. It was really, really unpleasant. But I didn't connect it with my behaviour for a long time. But what I teach my clients is that if we can just start to pay attention, just as Lou was saying earlier, and we slow down our eating pace, we can start to recognise that we reach a point where we've had enough before we reach the point where we've overdone it. And I know how much better my clients feel when they say, do you know what, I went out for this meal and I had what I wanted, I enjoyed every mouthful, but I walked away satisfied and not full. And that to me is a massive win. And this is, as I said earlier, it's a learning process. You know, it takes time to practice these things. We have to practice over and over again to be able to do this. But gradually, little by little, we can train our bodies to be happy with less food. Because one of the problems with the world today is that when it comes to food, we tend to think more is better. Actually, more is not better. Not if we're talking about the food and drink that we're constantly bombarded with by the food manufacturers and retailers that we know are not good for us in large quantities consistently. So this is one of the techniques that I share with my clients. And then the other concept that I try and steer my clients towards over time is what I call the sweet spot, pardon the pun. And this is about, basically, when we think about what do we want to achieve? We perhaps want to have a sustainable, healthy weight, so we're not on this diet roller coaster, we're not on the Groundhog Day all the time. You know, just like with Groundhog Day, we had the issue to begin with where he was really fed up all the time, and eventually, after lots of practice, he started to recognise that he could learn from the situation that he was in. And by the end of the film, he becomes a master ice sculptor and a master pianist because he's practiced and practiced and practiced. And by practicing what we know about how to eat in a way that supports our health as opposed to harms it, we can actually reach and maintain a healthy weight. And that is the right amount of calories, whether that be your goal is to lose weight, maintain it, or gain it, because, you know, everybody's different, have got different goals. We know the amount of energy we need, and we're getting most of that energy from the food that is healthy for us. And it's if we say, I often encourage my clients to think about 80-20 principles, where 80% of our food comes from food that is, or 80% of our energy rather, comes from food that is healthy as best we can within the constraints that we have. That leaves 20% of our energy for whatever we fancy, with no guilt whatsoever. We just have to put the boundaries around it. Just like we can't send our kids into the toy shop and say, you can have all of the toys, you can have one toy. You know, it's about being kind of sensible about the boundaries we put around it. And then the final point here is we've got to make sure we're enjoying every single mouthful that we eat. We don't want to be spending calories on food we don't like, whether that's healthy or not. Just in the same way as we don't want to be spending money on stuff we don't need. So that, if we can reach that point, and this is where I steer my clients to, is by reaching this point, they're able to unlock their stored energy. And in doing so, they feel so much more energetic. And that is what I want for everybody, because it really does concern me the way that the world is going at the moment in terms of how we manage food, energy consumption, and what it's doing to our health, both now and in the future. So I know that, well, I would like to think that all of us want to live a long and happy and healthy life. So by following these principles, if you are concerned about the amount of energy you're consuming, do think this will really make a difference. So I'm just going to leave you with this now.
It's so beautiful. Let's live here. We'll rest. What a day.
Put your hands together for the incredible Claire Jones, everyone! Oh, look at this! We've got some apparatus on stage.
Yes.
Give me a cuddle, well done.
Thank you.
We've got some apparatus on stage.
Yes.
This looks posh, an
Yes.
Insta360.
Yes.
I've seen you messing around with
Yes, this is my action camera for my motorbike. I record my rides on it.
You record your rides on it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it's great for selfies in here.
It's great for selfies in here. So is that what we're going to do? So how are we going to do this?
Well-
We'll come to the middle.
Okay, I've already recorded a video.
Have you?
Yeah, but now we can do a selfie
You're a
as well.
technical wizard.
Yeah, now I need to work out how to change it to photo.
We've got to do it while everyone don't fall asleep.
yeah.
Stay with us.
No, so I've done the video. That's fine. I've done the video.
Have you done it?
Yeah, and then I can take a still from that, so it's fine.
Oh,
Yeah, we've already done it. But unless you want to stick your hands up. Everybody want to
yes,
stick
let's
your
put
hands
your
up?
hands up in the air like you just don't care.
All right, let me just start recording. Okay.
Ready? Am I in?
Let's go.
I'm getting in,
Okay,
I'm in.
let's go. Yeah, it's recording both sides. It's very
Oh, is
clever.
it?
Yeah.
Why?
Yay!
I just terribly thought about that situation. It's awful. There's me in the background going... Claire Jones, everybody.
Thank you.
Absolutely smashing it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.